Good morning. Welcome to the first session of today. Hope you're having a good Ignite so far. My name is Adam Hall. I'm here with my good friend Eyal Manoa. Today we're going to go through the Azure Information Protection strategy and roadmap. I've sat through a few of these sessions myself, and it's usually lots of strategy and a little bit of roadmap. We're going to turn that around. I'm going to be up here for a shorter period of time as I can to tell you just what our overview is, set the scene, make sure you understand what we're about. And then Eyal's going to come up and do lots of demo, lots of showcase, lots of roadmap. So we're probably 25% strategy and 75% product and roadmap. So hopefully that's what you're looking forward to. Just to level set for us, just a quick show of hands, how many of you went to the Microsoft Information Protection session yesterday morning? A few, cool. And just to help us level set, who's using Azure Information Protection today? Much bigger set. Awesome. All right, well, hopefully things are going well so far. Hopefully you've been working with our teams, and certainly I think you'll be interested to see what Eyal has to show you today. So I've just got a few slides to set up what we are about in terms of Azure Information Protection, what our strategy and vision really is, before we dive down into what we're actually doing at the product level. So I want to start with the question of what do we really mean by information protection? What does that actually mean? It can mean many, many different things depending on how you look at it. Everything from, am I encrypting data at the physical level with things like BitLocker and encryption, all the way through to rights protection and stopping people doing things and turning off controls in applications. What we think about in terms of what we mean is helping you to protect sensitive data all the way through its life cycle. When Eyal and I talk about information, what we really mean is end user data. Things like email, document types, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, CAD, whatever file types you've got. We're interested in what you as a person in front of a keyboard are working with. That's what our mission in life is, to say, how do we help you understand what you've got, where it is, who's got access to it, and what they're allowed to do with it. And so just in the context of this session, that's what we really mean. So I think we all get this one. We don't need to belabor it too much. In the past, for those of us that are old enough, we started in the mainframe days. Everything was centralized. All you got was screen, keyboard, mouse to a green screen. Then data started to come onto server clients. Then we had remote access and laptops, and dial-up became a thing. Then we've got this thing called the cloud, and data really started to travel. And the challenge there is it can be anywhere in the world, under your control or not. Users do things, devices do things. You've got applications that are generating huge amounts of data. And then you've really got how that's used as well. And so when you think about that, A, your data has already traveled. It's out there. So that's an assumption that you can say is 100%. And B, the question really is, how do you start to understand what your information is and how much you care about it? Inside all of your environments and even in your personal life, you have a continuum of information. Everything from, I don't care about it, it's in the public realm, scare rating 0. All the way through to the most sensitive crown jewels in an organization, your personal information around your social security number, your government IDs, your bank account details, whatever it might be. On that continuum, you've got various ways of how much you care and what you want to do. Our role is to say, let us help you understand what that continuum looks like, how much is at that end, how much is at this end. It's different in customers, different customers. My team, although the team I work in, works with a lot of customers around the world. Some of you may have worked with the people that are part of our organization. And what we help you understand is really how much is at this end? How much is in the crown jewels section? Because that's what you care about the most. You want to know what it is, where it is, who's got access to it. You want to protect it in most cases. You potentially want to do things like visual marking. And you want to be able to know when it starts to travel around, where is it? What we're about is to help you understand that. So if you think about all of these things, all the boundaries are gone, your stuff's everywhere, and the world seems pretty bad and scary, right? Well, we're going to show you what we can do about that and how you can control it. Now, across the Microsoft suite of enterprise mobility and security, you've got lots of different products, and we are one of them. Everything from what we do at the information level through things like CAS that can help you understand when data's traveling to some of these cloud locations, ATA if you want to know if bad people are trying to do things on your network on-prem. Spoiler alert, they are, and they are there now, and so you should install that, as well as managing mobile devices with Intune, and of course identity with Azure AD. But the reality is, this is big, this is hard, this is scary, but we're here to hold your hand, give you a warm hug, and make sure that things are okay. Right, here's what we hear. I am fortunate to run a team of 15 odd people around the world whose job it is to work with customers and partners all day, every day. It's what we do. And these are the things that we're being told. Hey, moving to the cloud's hard. I'm scared about this. My stuff's leaving what I feel like is a good control plane. Like I know it. It's on a server over there and I want to hug it and make sure it's okay. Our job is to help you understand what it is so that you can help move up there. Things like GDPR and regulatory compliance needs are pretty scary. There's lots of requirements there, there's lots of legal language, you've got to get down to what does it really mean that I have to do. GDPR in particular is a very challenging regulatory compliance in terms of its reach and its scope, and so therefore we need to help you with that. End users are probably where you will spend most of your time with technologies like Azure Information Protection. The person in front of the keyboard is the one who has the most control, as well as the least amount of control in your head around dealing with information. And so educating users is critical. I would suspect that if we did a deployment of Azure Information Protection, I broke down the amount of time, we'd probably spend 50% of the time on non-technical stuff. Things like getting all of the Things like getting all of the stakeholders together and agreeing what your taxonomy is, working out what the rules and policies are, educating users. There's a lot to be done that has nothing even to do with technology. This is a big change, and we need to help you do that. And then getting into sharing, information flowing outside the organization. What should be shared, what shouldn't be shared, how do you do that securely? Hopefully you've all had a chance to see the new Office Messages Encryption, the secure email to anyone on the planet capabilities that we released this week, and being able to say, it doesn't matter who I send something to, I want to protect it on send, I want to protect it in transit, I want to make sure it's sitting there as a protected blob at the other end, and I want to validate to the best of our capability that the person at the other end is who they say they are. So these are the things we hear. Hopefully they resonate with what you're seeing. If you're hearing something different or you're seeing different challenges, I would love to know, because our role is to listen, to hear what your challenges are, so that we can feed this back to the members of the team so they can help build the product in the way that works best for you. So our approach, left to right, nice and broad. This is kind of the setup I did with enterprise mobility and security, really just a pointer of this is the pillar that we are in right now. Things like DLP, Windows Information Protection, CAS and so on are really about the information itself. Not about who someone is, it's the identity, not about threat detection, which is people trying to do bad stuff, and then you've got your security management around getting insights and knowing what's going on and malware and those kinds of things. We're in the information business. We want to make sure that things are going well, no matter where things are there. So, how do we do this? Top level setup, and believe me, I believe this is my last slide. We need to help you detect what your information is and where it is. This is everything from that continuum of my information all the way down to system resident things that can take a look at data at rest and so on. Yeah, I was going to talk to you a bit about that. But we need to make sure that you understand what you've got, where it is, and what type of information it is, so you know what level of interrogation you need to apply to it and what policies need to kick in. Then we have classification. Classification is about saying, okay, if I've got all of this data, how much do I care about each one? What are the business rules that need to apply to a given type of information? If it's public, it probably doesn't need to be protected and visually marked and so on, but you just want to know that it exists. Things like internal information. Once we start labeling information, then we can say, okay, internal information shouldn't flow to an external person. How do we use border gateway controls, SMTP gateways, network controls, DLP engines, so on, to help the user say, you're trying to send information that is internal to our business to an external person. That's not something you should do. Let us help you understand how you can educate your users there and make sure they don't do something silly. Protection. In the old days, we've had protection since Windows Server 2003 with AD rights management. It's a well understood and very mature technology in terms of the encryption and the way that it works. Not everything needs to be protected. only those crown jewels, only those things that are toxic data, sensitive data, things that are highly confidential, intellectual property, customer data, whatever it is to your business, that is, if the wrong people got that, we're in a world of pain. That's the stuff you should protect. We need to help you identify it so that you can choose to protect it and then make sure you've got it under control. And then from a monitoring point of view, you need to know what's going on. Who's doing what? Are your users doing what you want them to do? Who are the users in your environment that you need to take a closer look at, either because they need education or because they're a malicious user doing nefarious acts like declassifying information, trying to access things they shouldn't, sharing things with people they shouldn't, and so on. And so across Azure Information Protection, we're going to touch on pretty much all of these in this next hour through the content that Eyal is going to show you. And really we want to show you how we're approaching this from a product point of view, the features, the functions, the capabilities that we are working on to help you achieve all of these things as you go on your information protection journey. And it is a journey. This is not something that you'll install once and walk away and say, great, done, rub your hands and say, sweet, let's go and have a beer. This is something that's going to iterate over time. You will learn, you will adjust, new threats will come through. We're here to make sure that we keep up with that, to hear what you need to do, and to make sure that we build the product so that it delivers on those needs and capabilities. We have a few things that can help you get going. We have two main resources. We have the customer experience team, customer success team. That's my team for Azure Information Protection. We are here to say we've got best practice guides, we've got guidance on how to do things, the first 5 things you should do. Our job is to say, if you do it this way, we know that it will work, it will deliver on what you need. We will run workshops with you, we will help educate you. If you're a partner, we'll help you build a practice around that, and so on. We also are part of Fast Track now, which Office and other parts of Identity and Intune have been part of for a while. The security business is now part of Fast Track, and so those are resources that can help you step through the process of getting up and going. We put a lot of, excuse me, we have a lot of documentation. Carol Bailey is our technical writer. If you look at docs, you'll know who she is. She sits in an office 3 doors down from me. And we spend a lot of time making sure we build the right documentation, making sure that we've got great quick starts, guidance on how to do things, and so on. We put a phenomenal amount of effort into updating those. If you see things that are wrong, we'd love to know so we can fix it. And if you want to see additional things, again, we'd love to see that is there. And the idea is to say, look, if you bought our thing, we want you to use our thing and get value from it. That's a very simple statement. If you're sitting on this, you should deploy it because there's a lot of value there. There's a lot of gains to be made. We can help you overcome some challenges, be compliant, know what's going on, and stop the bad guys getting your stuff. We can get you going very, very quickly. We run workshops with customers. We typically say, you get all your people together, we come on site for your day or run a workshop for a day, and we go from what is it to let's have 25 people running in production basically in that day. That's what we want to achieve, is to get everyone in that room with a taxonomy and using it. It really is that simple from a setup and a deployment point of view. The hard bit is you getting the people in the room and getting them to agree on what your taxonomy is. We'll take care of the rest of it and help you step through that. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Eyal now. He's going to show you an absolute metric ton of demos. He's going to talk about all the new stuff that we're doing. And also, if you have questions, this is things that you may have questions, please come up to the microphones and ask. If we get lots of questions, I'll come back up and facilitate while Eyal goes. But please make it interactive. You're going to see a lot of new stuff. You're probably going to have questions. So with that, this is Eyal, and I will get off the stage and let him take over.
Hey guys, good morning. I'm so excited this morning to see the handful of number of people. When Adam was asking you in the morning, how many of you have been using Azure Information Protection? I remember myself sitting here, actually it was in Atlanta at Ignite exactly 12 months ago. We had nothing. Azure Information Protection was in public preview. We had just a handful number of customers, one of them is here, that were helping us to shape up this product. Nobody knew what it does. We had just manual classification, tiny automatic, no integration with management of the templates, no integration with file types others than Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And look at that, 12 months later. Everybody here know Azure Information Protection. We have today a very nice number of several thousands of organizations working daily in production with Azure Information Protection in all continents. And thank you guys, for all of you, for your support and for your great feedback. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you guys. So this is going to be a lot about strategy and about roadmap. And we have a lot of demonstrations that we're going to do in order to try to articulate what we are doing, to show that we listen a lot, to show that we are working very, very fast, and more than that, to show you that Azure Information Protection is not focused anymore just on the add-in for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, or just on the classify and protect shell extension. We're actually shifting today from Azure Information Protection to talk about Microsoft Information Protection solutions. So think about the life cycle of a file. It goes from your device, maybe to SharePoint, maybe to other cloud storage application, to my device. I shared it with other people. They share it with other people that share it with other people. And we need to make sure that from information protection standpoint, we have the ability to provide the same policy on all of the devices, on the Office 365 cloud, on other cloud services. Think about Box or Dropbox or Workday, and of course on your on-premises resources, on your network file shares, on your SharePoint on-prem. And for that, we're starting to leverage technologies that are available at Microsoft. Think about Windows Information Protection, Microsoft Cloud App Security, Office 365 Security and Compliance Center, and of course Azure Information Protection, that are starting to speak the same language, to have the same label taxonomy, to have the same rule base, the same conditions, the same condition matching for DLP capabilities, and all of them are starting to give us, throughout our strategy and roadmap, a big unified information protection policy that goes throughout the life cycle of the file. And this is what we're going to see today. We're going to see how we are making this shift, and how we have all of these technologies talking together. So we've been listening to you, and you've been talking to us about three big pillars: be native, be unified, and provide information protection anywhere throughout the life cycle of the file. And these are the three elements that are going to guide us in the time that we have today for the demonstrations and to discuss about the roadmap and the strategy on each and every one of what we are going to talk. So let's start and see what we are going to do. So let's start and talk about native. You guys work for organizations, or maybe you are integrators or consultants that work for other organizations. And at the end of the day, when we are talking about information protection, we are measured by security, but we are also measured by the experience that the information workers, the people from the HR, the people from engineering, the people from sales, the people from finance are experiencing throughout their day. We're committed for Azure Information Protection to provide a delightful labeling experience for everybody, to simplify the labeling experience as much as possible and to yield to automation as possible and as much as possible. We are starting today with providing for Azure Information Protection add-in for Windows to support more content types and to give us the ability to work in a much more faster way, much more robust way, work perfectly when you are doing content matching in front of SharePoint Online, and also providing several new abilities to show or do not show the information protection bar that help us, the information worker, to classify and protect data. You've been asking us about Macintosh, about web apps, about iOS and Android, and about native integration. We're very glad to say that we are actively working on that. We'll be starting with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint for Macintosh, where we are planning to be there in preview in the upcoming several months, continue with the web applications, continue with the first semester of next year with iOS and Android, and continue with Windows. People ask me why we continue with Windows later, because we already have a great solution for Windows installed on a huge number of devices, gaining a lot of mileage already at thousands of customers on a daily basis. So let's take a look at that and see how the new things are working today. So let's jump onto my computer and start rolling our demonstration based on the native experience. So I will start showing some of the improvements that we have made to our Windows client in order to make a better content matching. So here's Word. All of you familiar with what we are doing here. And let me open a new document which is on my SharePoint Online. So I will go here to my work directory and open this file. So far, so good. The very first thing that you can see, and Adam was asking who is familiar with Azure Information Protection. Most of you people raised your hand. You can see something interesting. I don't have the information protection bar when I was opening Word. Alternatively, I can take a look here and see that I have the Protect menu, and I can see a vertical articulation all of the labels that I have in my business. Here at Microsoft, we are having the non-business, the public, the general, and we have two additional parent labels named confidential and highly confidential that are having several sub-labels. But we've noticed over the time that not all of the users would like to have this information protection bar appearing throughout their day and night, all of the time that we are working with the applications. So maybe people here from security or people here from operations would like to show this information protection bar 24/7, but guess what? Users not always like it. So starting today, we are giving you the option throughout our scope policies to decide what will be the default. Whether people are going to have the bar, if they're having the bar, can they disable it or actually hide it or show it? Or maybe they shouldn't see the bar when they're opening the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, but they can still see it if they would like. They can still go here to Protect, Show Bar, and the bar will be coming here in a second. And here is my bar. So, for example, here at Microsoft, we have more than 100,000 users, and we have identified that when you are working at HR, at legal, at finance, it's very important and I want to splash it in front of you day and night. But for example, Adam and I, we work on the product organization. 99.5% of our time we're dealing with general information, and we have the ability to save these 39 pixels from our screen. So this is really nice, and let's work with the new situation, and let's go here to the show bar and just remove it. You will see how it behaves in a second when I get some content matching. So reminding you, I'm working on SharePoint Online, and I've opened here some SOW template document. It's not a very short document. It's 30-something pages. So content matching is going to be more heavy, which is good for me, good for the demonstration. And let me just go here and, for example, let's say here that while typing, I'm working on Project Ignite. And let's add something here. All right. What we can see is that the new capabilities of Azure Information Protection gives us the ability to run the content matching inspection engine while I type a document. And this also works very, very good with the autosave capabilities for SharePoint Online. So we don't need to wait for the save. We don't need to wait for an action. This is happening all the time. And here, for the people who are less familiar with Azure Information Protection, I wrote Project Ignite. Project Ignite is a phrase that matches a recommended label. And here, I got a recommendation. Now, take a look at that. I was not working with the bar, and I don't see it throughout my work. But the second there was a content matching, guess what happens? I get a policy tip that educates me and explain me what happens. And this one tells me it is recommended to label this file as confidential any user. We can also add a reason. But because it was a recommendation, I also see the bar. And the bar explains me to understand what is the position of the recommended label among other labels that I have at the business. So maybe the end users do not see the bar 24/7, but when they need it, when they have some content matching, they really get the perspective of what's going on. So let's say that I just wrote it Project Ignite, and I prefer right now to not change the settings, and I will dismiss that. I dismissed, and the information bar is collapsing. Let's say that I'm continuing to work on this file, and I prepared here some data. Where is it? Okay, just one sec. Ignore this one. Okay, so I've prepared here some data in advance that I will enter into the document. This data represents if there are any people from the United Kingdom, some personal information about people in the United Kingdom. And let's continue to work on this document here, and we'll talk about some customer data reference for this SOW, and I will just start and paste this data. I'm not sure if it was pasted. Okay, it was pasted. Now, see what happens. I didn't save the document, and I'm working on SharePoint Online, and throughout my editing of the document, we see that there is a content matching of this UK driving license or UK social security numbers, and this is important enough for me to actually apply an automatic condition, and for that we can see a new policy tip. It tells me that this item contains PII information, and hence it was been labeled as confidential. I also get the bar giving me the visibility, explaining me that the data was labeled as confidential. I can click here OK, and again we collapse the bar. Like always, if we will take here the data is being classified, I can see that we have here our regular content marking, the header and the footer that we have the ability to do. And with that, you can see a far smoother experience for the end users. The great thing is that with the information protection bar, you can decide who will get it by default, who will not get it by default, what will be the rules, and what you can see here is by far better and faster and much more robust classification engine that is working with the same capabilities that the Office DLP classification engine works today. So let me switch the monitors for a second and take a look at my brand new Macintosh device that I just bought the other day. And what you can see, it blinks? Doesn't blink. Great. What you can see is that we've been working very, very hard over the past several months on starting to get a native experience for all Office platforms that we can work on. Now, of course, that Windows is the most popular operating systems where users are working with, but as I said before, we already believe that we have an excellent solution over there. So instead of improving that, let's start with having what we do not have. So let's start with Macintosh. So who is a Macintosh here? All right. Whose executives people are using Macintosh here? Yeah, much more, right? And we need to serve these guys, right? So if you're looking here at my Macintosh, I'm running Word, and this is will be a part of the upcoming updated versions for Word. And what we can see, if I will just make the screen a bit bigger, we will see here that we've been working on a new concept named label. Now, if I will click on this label, we can see that we're seeing the exactly same labels that I have in my business. We can see here the non-business, the public, the general, the confidential, the highly confidential. We continue to keep the nice Learn More button, which you have the ability to customize and refer the people that click on the Learn More button to actually be rerouted to your intranet site that explains more about your policies and how to educate users and what's confidential and so on and so forth. And we can see here with manual classification that if I will click, for example, on confidential, or let's do highly confidential for a second, we can see here that we are, again, supporting the header, the footer, the watermark, the ability to apply the label properties, the custom data into the document itself, so the label will be persistent. And last but by far not least, apply the rights management permissions into the file. Default label is working the same way. When you downgrade the label, you'll get the justification in the same way. Automatic labeling will follow up after manual. We're starting with manual, and then we're adding the automatic capabilities. But all of that is coming. All of that is going to be in public preview throughout the upcoming several months before the end of this year. This is what we are intending to do right now at this point. And we're looking forward to having you guys more engaged with what we are doing with the native experience. Is it nice? Like it? We like it. All right. So let's have this session interactive. So far, Adam and I were speaking and showing some things, and we have many, many more exciting demonstrations to show. But maybe we'll make a tiny break here if anybody has a question from the audience, want to ask something. So let's take like few questions now, and between every demo we'll take more questions. I will just ask you, do not try to hold, if there are questions about will you have XYZ, try to wait till after the demonstrations, because for like 80% of the will you have, we will show a demo. So yes, sir, okay, good morning.
So I will keep my other question for later then. But first question here regarding classification. If you receive a document that has been classified and labeled by a partner, although you're using Azure Information Protection, you do not see the partner classification in the bar.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, this is on purpose.
Because sometimes I've been asked this when implementing that to customers, they would like to know if the partner didn't implement any labels, any footers or watermarks, if that document is classified in some way for the other company.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question about my domain and external domains, or my company and other companies. And the question is about you work at company X, I work at company Y, you share the secret data with me, I do not see it as secret. And this was actually done on purpose, because if you send me a secret document, and maybe on my company, secret document means that I cannot share it with people outside of the business, I don't want my system to get confused with your system. So frankly, I do not want to enforce my information protection policy based on your labels. I would like to do it based on my labels. Some years ago, we had this, I would call it a confusion, and we started to see that actually in my company, I'm starting to block information that was marked as secret by a business partner of mine, and eventually we didn't understand why things do not come. So this was done in purpose.
Okay, because it can be frustrating for the end user when you're adding protection on top of labeling. So as you say, my secret is not necessarily something secret for you, but as soon as you have applied some restriction using RMS, then it can start to be confusing for the user because he has no clue why something was protected in some way. Although it's displayed maybe, you've added custom template based on the classification, and suddenly say, okay, I do not understand why I cannot share this with that other department or that other colleague, and maybe having the label information could help to clarify the situation.
Okay, it's an interesting business scenario about collaboration with other people. We can continue to have this maybe discussion. At this point, we think about my labels and your labels are mutual exclusive. They are not sharing any business data. We had some thinkings about maybe several organizations that are sharing data that belong to the same country and belong to the same industry. Maybe they would like to have a shared labels, and we will allow that maybe in the future throughout having the same GUID for the same labels. We can have this discussion. I think that this is a bit more minor element.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's take maybe one more question. And
can I ask? I got a question about Mac.
Right.
Okay. Well, so we'll start there, and then you, and then we'll continue to the next demo. I promise that we'll have more breaks for more questions, so we'll have enough time. So yes, sir.
Currently, it appears with a Mac user, they are not able to for the first time, create an AIP document unless they've already opened an existing AIP document. There doesn't appear to be a way for a user to create at first go. They have no mechanism to log in. It appears that they have to open a document that somebody else created. Whereas, of course, on Windows, you can just write off.
I agree, and this is an action item for us to fix.
Okay, it is. I am correct when I say that, though. I haven't found
yes.
a way to do it.
Yes, I know, and Adam nods as well, and this is an action item for us, sir. All right, so last question for this part, and we'll continue.
All right, thank you. So first of all, I want to congratulate you for bringing IPS, because this has been a request for a lot of customers that have been looking into third-party classify, label, and protection kind of an engines, but I want to congratulate you first. The real issue that I see of deploying this technology in the production environment is the customers are a little bit scared of the complication of help desk calls being generated just because of the protection part of it. Because it is very difficult to educate the user which template to use and how to classify, label, and protect. Now, that protection part is related to the RMS templates, and that RMS templates has two components: one, who can access it, and second, what would be the access level. Now, one user assigns and labels a classifier document, label it, protect it with a template, and sends it to a user who doesn't even have access as per that RMS template.
Yes.
Now, that generates help desk calls, that generates frustration, and that causes kind of a roadblock in deploying the IPS. What's your suggestion? What's your advice? And that goes for the external users as well, right? Not just for internal users. Same challenge with the external users.
Okay. So first.
One's for access.
Oh, okay. So keep. I'm not going to talk about that. This is not on the upcoming roadmap, but it's a good solution. I will refer to your question. First, thank you for bringing up this question. And it's a good and it's a valid question. And again, we always have this balance between productivity and information workers and hugging the modern workplace. And on the other side, you are having these questions about security. And your question is very valid. I will just recap on the question, is how do we avoid from the gaps of frustrated users who are receiving some data that they cannot access, and how we're dealing with that. Now, we've built, Adam's team and our team, we've built a set of best practices to how an organization can grow with Azure Information Protection in stages, in phases. Instead of trying to go from 0 to 100, where 100 is full segregation and segments of data for different divisions, let's start more slowly, and let's start and pick up our quick wins one phase after the other phase. And we've seen that also at Microsoft, to be very honest with you. We're thinking in the past that maybe we'll have several hundreds of sub-labels and segments. And while thinking about it, immediately we just say, okay, let's put it aside, and let's think about something that will work for the operations, work for security, work for me as an information worker that is dealing with product. So for that, we built several tips that Adam is leading about how we can think about, let's start with classification. Then after we educate the user, let's move forward with protection, but protection can be wide. For example, at Microsoft, confidential gives access for all Microsoft employees. So right, it's 100,000 people, but it's better than 7 billion people on the planet that have the ability to read it. So I already cut from 7 billion to 100,000 people that we trust. Then, of course, that we have some businesses that are a bit more unique, but we try to count them and keep them at less than 10. So we have HR, we have finance, we have maybe venture integration, the guys who acquire other company, which is, you don't want to reveal their secrets. And we try to identify and actually try to justify all the time why not giving those people a segment of their own. And this is my best practice and best suggestion, not only to you, but for everybody in this room and everybody that will listen to this session later throughout this year, to go slow, to pick up the wins, and to not try to do over security assessment throughout the time. You'll grow through that together with the businesses. So this is my best advice. Of course, the technology gives you the ability to do more. So I hope that it answers your questions. And so again, if we're talking here about better user experience, so we talked about how we are making Windows by far better and how we have the ability to show Mac that will be followed by web, iOS, Android, and last, but by far not least, the Windows. So let's talk about unification. So when we're talking about unification, I think that the most important thing for us is to make sure that the Office Security and Compliance Center and Azure Information Protection have the same language. We already started with phase 1 by unifying 82 predefined distinct information type. More than 35 of them fit personal European data for GDPR compliance, and these are already unified starting maybe 2 weeks ago. In the short term, we are going to add several more capabilities in the area of unification. We are going first to bring the support for the SharePoint Sync client to have the ability to support download of documents from protected folders in order to have information in the clear on SharePoint Online, but when it's being synced to my computer, data will be protected. We're going to see it. And in addition, we're going to started to leverage Azure conditional access into protecting, or actually into consuming protected documents as well. By that, we have the ability to verify the devices are healthy, or using multi-factor authentication or joined to the domain before they are bootstrapping into the rights management and having the ability to consume documents. We'll see the demo and then we'll talk about what's coming later. So let's start and see what we're doing. So let's start first with seeing a bit of what we're doing with the next generation Sync client of SharePoint Online and then conditional access. So let me work here on a new document, and that will be my HR even meeting summary. So it doesn't have to be something very secret, and we'll have here something. So we have some nice content in this document. And you can see that I don't have anything sensitive in this meeting summary. The document is marked as general, and everything is great with that. But I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to save it to my HR folder or to my HR site. We call it HR meeting summary, Ignite. Now, what we've done is that we're using a legacy feature that exists in SharePoint Online for several years already that is marking this folder to protect any data that is on it. And this is a location-based marking. So with SEC very soon, Security and Compliance Center very soon, we'll be able to also say that everything that goes to a specific site or folder is actually going to be labeled automatically with, for example, confidential or general or internal. In this case, we are just protecting the folder. And let me just close Word here. We can also close this one. And let's see what happens. So remember the document was marked as general. And let's see what's going on here. So this is my sync folder. And we can see the HR meeting summary Ignite. It's actually being synchronized right now. It may take several moments. But let's see this file here. So let's refresh the screen. So we are on our HR site. And here's the HR meeting summary for Ignite. If I will open it here in my Word Online, and if you remember, we uploaded the document that was not protected. It was just labeled general. But we can see that here in Word Online, I get the restricted access. And this is because, thank you for that, but this is not new. but appreciate that. Then the next one is going to be far more interesting. If you remember, the next generation Sync client was actually not working. It didn't understand how to fetch data that is supposed to be protected, but is actually not protected. And what we are doing right now is that if we will just shut this down, this is not synced yet. I will just open this one. It's exactly the same document, just for my tests from last night. We can see that from label perspective, it should be general. Just want to double check that here. Okay, I already get it as a co-owner for me. But the label is not set. I didn't set it with a label. And when I will open the document here, we'll have the ability to say that the Google document is actually protected. So what's great about it is that on SharePoint Online, the data is in the clear. And this provides us the ability to do co-authoring, and this will provide us the ability to do indexing and Delve and Cortana and to reason over the data. But when I take the data out, when I synchronize it to the synchronized client or download the file, it's actually protected, and now I will have it protected at the egress from the SharePoint Online. So this is a new next generation synchronized client that we are working on. It's going to private preview in the upcoming short term of several weeks. We're very, very happy with that. A bit more interesting is that if you remember, this is a protected library. So let me log in as a different user and try to see something not less interesting. So let's log in as Nestor. The screen is small, so let me log in again. Oh, shit. Now it works. Okay. And this is a different computer, a different person. And this person is working from a device that is not managed and not considered to be healthy from Intune perspective. What I did before is that when I go to Azure Security Conditional Access, I'm actually having the ability to add a new service called Azure Information Protection. This is in private preview today, but is already available if you're going to your conditional access portal. And I've actually decided to say that if I will try to open a document that should be protected, then this document will require from this machine to be healthy or domain joined or to have some multi-factor authentication. So let's go here and we'll just take the link from here. It will be shorter. And that was the HR meeting summary Ignite. So remember, this data is protected. And I added a conditional access rule in order to verify that machine is healthy. So the rights management service requirements to authenticate, and I will gladly do that and see what happens. I'm getting a message telling me that I don't have the ability to access this document from this machine, and the reason is that the devices of the client application is not meeting the management compliance policy. Nice. It is very nice, and you can think about that as, again, when we are talking about being unified, unifying the information protection types, unifying the labels across Office 365 and Azure Information Protection, leveraging technologies that we have with the conditional access today into Azure Information Protection in order to access rights management protected document. All of that are very important for us in order to give you the complete picture. So let's not stop here. Let's think about how we can unify our data even more. Let me just close this data here, and let's see something not less interesting. How many of you people are working? No, this one. That's the dessert. Okay. How many of you are working with the Security and Compliance Center? Nice. How many of you think that the labels in the Security and Compliance Centers and the labels in Azure Information Protection should be the same? Yes. We need to make justice for this label, and this is what we are doing today. We're bringing justice for these labels. So take a look at that. When you would like to set your information protection policy for Office 365, where do you go? Security and Compliance Center. When you would like to manage your policies for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and others, and for the on-prem devices and the SharePoint, we're going to talk about it today later, you go to Azure Information Protection. Then you ask yourself, hey, I need to set the same label twice. I need to set the same policy twice. It doesn't make any sense. So let's take a look here. In the labels, I have highly confidential, confidential, general, public. Let's just make them by the order. This is better. And in the policy here, we have the non-business, public, general, confidential, highly confidential. Now, let's think about that. Let's add a new label. So this is the GDPR season. So let's add personal data, personal data GDPR. And we say for GDPR, PII, EU customers. And we're just creating a new label. We have it a black in the color. Let's not protect. Let's add a footer, a nice footer, and we'll say personal data GDPR. And that will be it for now. Let's do save. And I created a new label, the last one at the row, named personal data GDPR. And now I have the ability to work with it, to see that. Let's see that it's being added here. Okay, here it is, personal data GDPR, the last one, remember, after highly confidential. Let's go here. So we have here, let's again make the order, and we have the highly confidential. Let's just hit refresh and see what happens. And yay, all right, here it goes. So it's more than just seeing the label, right? It's the entire policy. So it's right on place. Let's go for it and edit this label. And see here in settings, so we have protections, we have retention. Very important to add retention and tie it to the label name. So we can say that GDPR stay for XYZ number of years in SharePoint Online and Exchange Online. And we have here some interesting advanced options. The color is black. There is a footer, personal data GDPR. And now I just want to say, no, it's personal data, and maybe the font size is 12, and I will do save and save here. And guess what happens? This is bidirectional, because now Security and Compliance Center and Azure Information Protection are just working in front of the same database for the policy. So let's just hit refresh here, and you will see that all of the data is reflected there. So let's give it a try and see what happens. So let's go here to personal data, the GDPR, and we can really see that the footer has changed, personal data, and footname is 12. So all of that is working, and we're synchronizing the data, and the idea is that you will see the labels everywhere you go. When you open the SharePoint web portal or the OneDrive web portal, you will see the label, and you will be able to change it. When you go to Word Online or Word on Macintosh, when you talk about our SDK or other ecosystem or the scanner, we are going to touch that in a moment. Everywhere you're going to see the same labels, the same taxonomies, a bit later the same conditions and actions, and with that we're actually unifying our policies. So maybe some of you will ask, okay, so why I need two portals? The idea is that from the Security and Compliance Center, you'll have the ability to do things that are more oriented to your SharePoint 365 environment, while from the Azure Information Protection portal, you'll be working on things that are more relevant to your on-prem and other cloud services, with Microsoft Cloud of Security and with Azure Information Protection Security, but eventually you'll be able to work from both. So if your business is driven only 365, use Security Center. If you're a hybrid, use Azure Information Protection, and that's great. So what we are going to do is that now we're working very, very hard on the unifying the information protection policy with DLP and AIP. We're really looking forward by the end of this year to come out with a public preview. It's a very, very, very aggressive timelines from our point of view, so don't take that as a commitment with the timelines right now, but we are working on that very, very, very hard. And that will come with seeing the same labeling experience on SharePoint Online and OneDrive for Business and having a unified classification policy. And this is really, really awesome, really, really great. I hope that this is what you've been waiting for the last year. You've been asking a lot of us about that, and this is now coming. So we'll continue for the next part, and then we'll have some, I guess, 15 minutes for the rest of the questions that you have. So we've been talking about unified, we've been talking about native, but let's talk about also anywhere. What anywhere means? Anywhere actually is giving us the ability to provide an information protection policy throughout the life cycle of the files. When it's at rest, when it's stored on my computers, when it's stored on my file shares, when it's going to Office 365, At every point of time, I would like to provide my policy. And for that, first, we would like to introduce you for the first time. We actually announced it today in the EMS blog about classification, labeling, and protection data at rest, which is on my local file shares and on SharePoint 2010, 2013, and 2016. And that we're also announcing the ability, together with Microsoft Cloud App Security, to also enforce labels and protections and do actions on labels based on the Azure Information Protection format for other applications and other services, such as Brox and Dropbox and Workday and others. So let's see the scanner in action, and then I will talk about the medium term. So we're very, very happy and very, very proud with what we've done with the scanner. And let's see how it works and how it looks. So let's go back to Eyal here. All right. Think about the scanner. Why we need a scanner? Maybe you would like to move from on-prem resources to the cloud, and you need to identify the toxic information before you move it to the cloud, so you want to mark it, and then you can migrate to the cloud the non-toxic data. Maybe you want a scanner because you need to comply with EU GDPR, and you would like to find personal data on the files that you have data at rest. And this is actually what we're going to do right now. So let's take a look at the storage. It's not really a storage, it's a folder on my computer, but it could be any file share or any on-prem SharePoint site. I have a nice number of 99 files. Neither one of them has been classified or labeled before, and about 2/3 of them include a wide variety of 35 different personal information. IDs for people in Finland, driving license for people in the UK, and so on and so forth. As I said, 35 different countries. What I'm going to do is that I will also open here the scanner reports, which is currently empty. I have no report. And let's take a look at my PowerShell to run the scanner. Run as admin. So this is my interface to the scanner. First, we will do small checkup, get AIP scanner configuration, and let's see how the scanner is currently worked. So I hope you can see the fonts. We can see that I'm running right now on scan mode, which is enforce. You have the ability to choose between what if to enforce. What if is just going to bring a report highlighting what file would have been classified if we would run it in enforce mode. Enforce is going to do the actual work. We're going to see that the scanner is going to override any other user label. So we have the ability to say whether override will happen or not. Whether I want to preserve file details. Think about the timestamp, think about the owner. 50% of you would like us to keep the timestamp, 50% of you want us to change the timestamp. So we decided not to argue with this side or with that side and just give it as two options, and you will choose what's best for your organization, and so on and so forth. So you can see that the schedule is just one time. We have one time, never in continuous. Now let's do start service AIP scanner and let the service working. So right now the scanner works, and let's see what happens. Let's see that something happens. Yay, okay, it works. So first we can see that something happens on the file here. You can see some temporary files, you can see some change of icons. This is because that the scanner is actually working right now and actually working throughout these 99 files. And what it does is that it takes the same information protection policy that I have, the same one that is running on my PC client, and actually running through them, go through each and every one of the conditions and actions and just apply them on a file one by one. We've just ran through some performance tests, and we saw that this is a virtual machine, but when you install it on a real Windows server, it gets through a fantastic results, and it's running very, very nicely. And in the meanwhile, I have here a detailed report. So the scanner didn't finish yet. Oh, actually, it has finished. Let's open the detailed report and see what happened. So what I can see here gives me a very, very interesting data. Let's expand a few of those rows and see that. So first I can see information about the 99, actually it's 75 because we did it before it's finished, but we see information about each and every one of the files that were scanned, and we can see it here. Later we can see the status of the scanner, that was success, and we can see what was the label before the action and what is the label after the action. Some of the files became general because this is my default policy, other files became confidential. Now you ask yourself, why? They became confidential because this has a Belgium national number, and this has credit card number, and this has a personal identification for somebody in Croatia, and so on and so forth. So this report is giving you an excellent visibility for where is my data. You can run the scanner throughout many file shares, many SharePoint sites, looking for something, whether it's in what if or on enforce mode, and you actually get visibility to what happened and why. What's exactly the condition name. So this is going public preview, end of October, exactly 1 month from today. We are in private preview already for like 2.5 months already. Thank you if some of you were participant on that. And we appreciate the feedback and looking forward to getting more information on that. Nice, right? So just to finish this slide, so we're talking about data at rest. I was talking about the Microsoft Cloud App Security. Actually, a bit later today, there is a presentation and a very good session about Microsoft Cloud App Security that are going to talk and demonstrate in depth about what we're doing with Azure Information Protection and Microsoft Cloud App Security. Last but not least here are the SDK and the logs. The SDK is a layer. We are heavily invested in this layer to leverage and to actually build an ecosystem around that. We are building right now a multi-platform SDK that is going to be available in the upcoming several months for integrators, for business partners. In the morning yesterday, in the yesterday session that was, in the session that was yesterday, if you had the ability to see ForcePoint on stage showing how they are leveraging the SDK in order to use their DLP platform to make more educated decision based on a label, or to leverage their classification engine in order to put a persistent label on the file using the Azure Information Protection format. This SDK is going to be available in 2 ways. One of them for an in-application, for interactive mode, like in Word, that I'm working on a productivity tool and I can actually see the labels and label them, or in a service mode where we can have, for example, some CRM tool or any enterprise web engine, or any, for example, DLP capability that sees file while they are moving from point A to point B and get the label and to set the label on them. We're also working on central reports capabilities. I'm not going to expand on that today unless we'll have a couple of moments. For that, Adam, maybe you can join me on stage and we can take up some questions. Till Adam is coming, this is a nice summary of what we are doing. I'm not going to repeat that. It's here. You can see that. It's actually summarize everything that we've just seen over the past 60-something minutes. As we said, the Microsoft Information Protection solutions are very amazing for us. We are very excited around them. They are going to give you a truly comprehensive information protection solutions for any stage of the data. So Adam, let's have any questions.
You must have questions. There's no way this crowd is this quiet. We get hammered with questions.
Well, Adam, it's 9 a.m. I'm sure that people are still quiet.
All right, lead away.
Okay, I have a couple of questions, if it's okay. So first questions regarding the incompatibility with protection applied by Azure Information Protection and SharePoint. Is it something you're planning to tackle? Because just to explain, for example, for IAM protected document libraries, if you try to import protected document with you specify a template based on a manual automatic classification on the client, you cannot upload this, this protected document into SharePoint. Is it something you're planning to tackle in some way and in a short term, medium term, or really long period?
Okay, so the question is about integration of rights management and SharePoint. I will give you the short answer. The short answer is that we believe that there are several gaps, and we believe that there are very, very, very good opportunities for us to make it better. couple of weeks ago, we had a strategic decision between our company executive in order to take that as a big investment project for us. And over the upcoming several months, we are going to communicate what we are going to do and how. So the plans are not finalized, but we have agreed that this is going to be a big pillar of investment to make SharePoint and rights management data best friends.
Okay, so can I assume that currently, based on what you're doing, the best solution for people that wants to implement protection to Azure Information Protection and SharePoint should be to avoid to implement IRM, use Azure Information Protection for their files, and use the scanner or the application of your label to have, let's say, the best of the two worlds currently?
So what our best practices today are actually to articulate what are the options and to actually get the responsibility back to your decision. You can decide that you want to protect everything on SharePoint, and then you lose some of the SharePoint very, very, very nice and exciting capabilities. You can decide that you don't want to protect and wait for more news from us. At the end of the day, it's whether, again, this seesaw of productivity versus security, and it's up to you, but we're committed to make it far better.
I'd say we have a spectrum of outcomes there. We know there's a couple of gaps, and so we can't fix them straight away. There's a lot of work to be done. What we see in the real world is one of two options, like Eyal said. Either leverage the security of SharePoint and say when it's in SharePoint, it is within a known realm. There's ACLs, there's all sorts of access controls there. It sits unprotected at rest, so it can be searched and indexed and surfaced in Delve and so on. And it's, as Eyal just showed, the first step is to say, let's allow the sync engine to say when it comes outside of that already known realm, then let's protect it so that as it travels, it's good. That actually answers most of what's required. The question of should it be encrypted at rest is an interesting one, because I personally am not convinced that's a requirement given the surrounding capabilities of SharePoint and the controls. Now, if you are so worried about the information that you want it to sit in SharePoint in an RMS protected kind of bubble, then we should probably have a different conversation, which is what is the importance of that data and where should it be? But right now, we've got a gap. We've got multiple options to go with. Different customers go different ways. We just explain the options and say, we're going to fix it. It will take a bit of time. For now, what can we do to get you moving?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
At this point, no one has gone completely no. They've just gone, cool, we'll take the journey with you.
Okay, and second question regarding the...
Are these online questions? Just checking there's other people?
Yep.
Okay.
So maybe we want to wrap this session and get...
Yeah, we've got 7 minutes left. So
all right.
let's just bounce backwards and forwards just so everyone gets a chance. So.
Hi, I would like to understand better the capabilities on centralized logging and reporting. To understand in a large enterprises, it's important to have the information about the data that's being encrypted and protected and labeled. Yep. As today, we need to see the local log, event log, and have the information.
It's actually a line item on Eyal's slide. Yeah. So are we working on it? Yes, it will come in the near future. Eyal and the team are working hard on central logs. It's one of two blockers that I'm tracking at a global level. These guys are well aware of it. They've been working hard on it. It is coming, and you'll get what you're looking for.
Okay.
You just take a second, because I promised something for dessert. So you're the lucky people who stayed with us till the end of the session, so you deserve to get a nice teaser that other people will not get. Now, I'm saying teaser specifically because I cannot commit right now to timelines. We are working on that, but you guys are very important for us, so it's important for me to share with you. We are designing now the capabilities for just taking all of the event logs from the client and actually push them to the Azure Information Protection Cloud Service, and then make this information available to you, either throughout a predefined dashboard that you may receive. Again, see that I'm using may and should, and still keeping that a bit not clear on purposely. And of course that you'll have the ability to connect your own tool, whether it's Power BI or whether it's just standard OMS or whether it's any other SIEM tool that you have, in order to get the logs in a raw data and actually manipulate, slice and dice it the way that you want. What I like here, and I will just take a couple of seconds of that, is that we've built already a sample report and we're testing that with people, starting with operational status, such as how my labels are being distributed in the business, continue with understanding from security perspective, how people are actually downgrading the labels and what kind of justification they have, in addition to policy effectiveness. For example, think about a recommended rule. So a recommended rule pop up for people 12,000 times, and now you understand how many times people dismissed, how many times people applied, and then you understand, oh, maybe it's good, I will switch it to automatic, maybe it's very bad, I need to re-educate or to reassess my policy. So we are working on that, very excited on it. I kept it to the last because we do not want to provide more information on that. I will just say that we have some nice number of organizations that are taking today's event logs and manually through WAF, web forwarder, are just uploading the logs to the cloud. And if you're uploading them to OMS, this is something that you can do just today with the OMS forwarder, for example. So we're very excited about it, but more news to come.
It's not so scalable when you talk about 100,000.
Yeah. I agree,
So,
and
I think the answer
I
is-
absolutely agree, and because I absolutely agree, this is why we're investing on that, and we will share more news the second we will have more news. So we were not sure about showing that here or not because we don't want to set the expectation and say this is coming on date XYZ, but we pay attention for that. It's important for us.
We'll go this way, and then we'll come back to this one.
How AAP is compatible with non-click-to-run clients?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
How Azure Information Protection is compatible with non-click-to-run clients? It means, own build version, actually. Customers who are using, like on-prem Office versions.
I'm sorry, can you talk closer? Can you hear what he said?
It was like the
Your
question
voice
is about
dropping out. Can you
compatibility.
talk closer to the microphone?
Yes.
Compatible.
How compatible AAP with non-click-to-run clients? It means
Non-click-to-run clients.
Okay.
Oh, we work with like Office 2010 and up, 2010, 2013, 2016. Doesn't matter whether it's click-to-run or MSI.
Fine, thanks.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of leading off of that question too. Specifically on the 2010, Office 2010 side, it's a pretty painful experience.
Yep.
Are you guys working on making that better?
Nope.
I figured that would be the case.
Seriously, I'll say a very hard statement. If you're on Windows 7 and Office 2010,
Right.
you're trying to do a very advanced security thing, you're not in the right mindset. Fix it.
Right, I understand, but if we're working with customers that have the latest technologies, that have partners that have those older.
You know what? They've got a bigger problem than AIP.
I agree, but that's still, I mean,
It's a hard thing to
Still
say,
out
but it's a reality. You're talking about products that are 8, 9 years old,
I
trying to do something that is very, very new.
Right.
The answer is yes, it's going to be painful. We've done the best we can, but it will not get better.
okay, got it.
Fix the underlying problem.
Yeah.
Hard statement to make, but there it is.
No, that's fine. I get it, and I'm completely on board with that. It's just,
Yep.
it's really the partner organizations that we're, not the customers we deal with directly, but.
Eyal knows this. I didn't even want to go down to Office 2010.
Right.
I didn't want to support it at all.
And then last question, on the integration with the AIP client into the Office clients, does that mean we don't have to have a separate download
Correct.
and install now?
In the very latest copies of Office 2016, it'll be in the click to run. You will just get a native experience, no add-in.
And is that current channel? I mean, what is?
We've got to figure the channels
No,
out.
it will be when we're talking about the click-to-run versions. Again, this is going to be available when it will be ready. We will announce that.
Okay, got it.
Then, of course, it will be like any regular feature. It will start with the insider rings, continue with the monthly ring, and slowly we'll go to all of the rings.
Okay.
As I said before,
All right,
Windows is the last one.
we have 1 minute. Eyal and I both have time afterwards, so we need to wrap so the next session can come set up. We'll come down the front and answer any more questions you've
Okay.
got. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
guys.
everybody. Great session.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.